I'm a big fan of Scott Galloway's podcasts. I listen to Pivot, which he co-hosts with Kara Swisher, Raging Moderates, which he co-hosts with Jessica Tarlov, and Prof G Markets with co-host Ed Elson. Scott's very transparent about his finances and wealth. In fact, I follow the advice of Scott, Warren Buffett, and others that say, why take a chance on any of the top performing individual stocks when you can simply bet on all of them, which is exactly how I've invested most of my retirement money in a Vanguard fund that tracks the S&P 500. So when he described a trade he recently did around Trump Media and Technology Group, I didn't understand what he was talking about. So I wanted to learn for myself how this worked. On today's episode, we're going to unpack Scott Galloway's Trump Media stock trade. This is Sunday Money. Okay, I'm going to play a clip of Prof G Markets in which Scott describes his strategy around a recent Trump Media stock bet. Now, originally, Scott wanted to use the site Polymarket, which allows you to directly bet on the outcome of the presidential election. But because he's in London, he was unable to log into Polymarket to place a bet. He then turned to the betting site Bet365, but became frustrated with the login process, so he decided instead to bet directly on Trump Media stock and do something called a collar option strategy, which I had no idea what that meant. So here I'm going to play the clip from Prof G Markets, then we'll break down what that is.
So I did a collared option strategy, and that is I sold in Donald Trump Media a bunch of calls at a strike price of 20, thinking it could crash to 20 if she got elected. But because I was worried it might go to 100 or 200, I bought some calls at 60, way out of the money, sort of what I think is referred to as a collared strategy. I got $21 in premium for selling the calls, and it cost me $6 for the insurance on the back end at $60. So a net proceeds of $15.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. What is a collar option strategy? Well, here's what Investopedia says it is. A collar is an option strategy that involves buying a downside put and selling an upside call to protect against large losses, but that also limits upside gains. So let's say I own 100 shares of Eli stock, and the stock is currently trading at $20 per share. That means my stock is currently worth $2,000. That's 100 shares times $20. I'm worried that Eli's stock might take a nosedive and crash. So rather than cross my fingers and hope that doesn't happen, where I lose all $2,000, I place a bet called a put option. A put option allows me to sell my stock at a certain price. So say I buy a put option to sell my shares of Eli stock at $15 per share. If Eli stock takes a nosedive, like all the way to zero, I have the option to sell my stock at $15 a share. So instead of getting hammered and maybe losing all my money, I can put my problem on somebody else, selling my shares at $15 a share. Nice safety net, right? Now here's the rub. In order to place a put option, I got to pay an insurance premium for the right to do that. In this case, that's going to cost me $3 per share. So I've got 100 shares of Eli stock, and 3 times 100 is 300. So it'll cost me $300 for the option to sell my shares at $15 a share. In other words, I've got $2,000 worth of stock. Let's say it crashes, so I exercise my option to sell the stock at $15 a share. So I get $1,500. Protects me from a total loss, but it did cost me $300 to buy the insurance policy for the right to do this, so I really end up with just $1,200. Now, what if there was a way that you didn't have to pay anything to get that same protection? You can sell a call, which just means that you're selling the right for someone else to buy your stock at a predetermined price in the future. Since I'm selling the right, I'm the one that actually gets the premium for this right, and I get to keep that premium money no matter what happens. So with Eli's 100 shares, let's say I sell the right for someone to buy my 100 shares of Eli stock at $30 per share. And the premium is $3. So someone out there in Stockland buys my option and they pay me $3 per share for the right to do this. So I receive $300 no matter what. I paid $300 for an insurance policy that limits my loss to $1,500 if the stock takes a dive, buying a put, or essentially putting that obligation on someone else. And I made $300 by selling a call. If the stock falls below $15 a share, I can sell my stock and make $1,500. So it creates a nice buffer, unlike just holding the stock outright and it potentially becoming worthless. All right, so let's go back to Scott's video and break down what he did.
I sold in Donald Trump Media a bunch of calls at a strike price of 20, thinking it could crash to 20 if she got elected.
So first, Scott sold calls at $20 per share, meaning he sold the right for someone else to buy his DJT shares at $20 per share. Remember, he's going to get paid some money, a premium for the right for someone to buy or call his shares away from him. Okay, here's the next clip.
But because I was worried it might go to 100 or 200, I bought some calls at 60, way out of the money.
Then he bought some calls at $60 per share, which he describes as way out of the money. Out of the money just means the price is above the current trading price of the stock. Here's the next clip.
I got $21 in premium for selling the calls.
He says he made a $21 premium for selling his call, which, if I understand this correctly, means he was paid $1 per share as a premium for the right for someone else to buy his shares of DJT stock at $20 per share, to call Scott's stock away from him at $20 plus the $1 premium, which equals $21.
It cost me $6 for the insurance on the back end at $60.
It cost Scott $6 per share for the insurance policy, the right to purchase DJT stock at $60 per share. So, if Trump Media stock shot up above $66 per share, the predetermined price of $60, also referred to as a strike price, plus the cost of the insurance policy of $6 per share for the right to do that. So anything above $66 is a win for Scott. He'll exercise that option. So $21, the premium he receives for selling his call, minus $6, the price he paid for the right to purchase the stock at $60 per share, equals $15. It's very likely the call Scott sold was exercised. In other words, someone paid Scott $1 per share for the right to purchase all of his shares at $20 a share. And they most certainly would have done that. The buyer calls the stock away from Scott at $20 a share and immediately sells it for $29 a share and makes a profit. Now, it's possible the call option Scott bought at $60 expired. So he's out $6 per share on that trade, but he made $21 per share on the other trade, and now I see how that works, for a net profit of $15 per share. The only thing that confused me about Scott's trade is that when I researched a collar option, the protective bet if the stock goes down is a put option, meaning that you're buying an insurance policy for the right to sell your stock at a lower price. Now, Scott never mentioned a put option. He described both sides of his bet as call options, buying and selling. And according to ChatGPT, that's referred to as a bull-call spread, not a collar option strategy. I think the idea is the same. You're creating some protection if the stock goes up or down. The other thing he didn't mention was that my understanding in options trading is that you can be holding the underlying stock, that's what you're selling, the right for someone else to purchase your stock, or it can be a naked option, meaning you don't actually own the stock you're trading options with. So now I think I know what a collar option is and a bull call spread, and hopefully I got that right. I don't think I'm ready to try it myself, but good to know how it works. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.